our eighth graders, our rising freshmen, the class of 2026, come to Columbia High School. This class is going to be in a great position because we will be doing some major, or I should say not major construction, it sounds intimidating, but we'll have some major changes to our building for the good for this class, and they will be enjoying some first-rate facilities. So I can't wait to have you join. And I just spoke with Miss Irby and Miss Grinnell, and we are planning for our eighth graders to come visit in June to get one of their first tours of the building too. So that's exciting. Miss Ballison, thanks for having me.
All right, Ms. Butler, did you want to say hello?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce myself. I'm Miss Butler, and I will be the fabulous vice principal for your class, the class of 2026. And I'm so excited to get ready to work with you starting in the fall. And our first time that we'll be able to meet will be this spring, just like Mr. Sanchez stated. And you'll probably see me bebopping into your middle schools because I'm going to be starting to have meetings with your vice principals just so we can have a really great and smooth transition as we welcome you to CHS. So welcome. We're so excited to have you. And I'm so excited to listen to Ms. Ballison this evening as well.
Thank you. Thanks for you both for being here. So we have a lot of information to cover tonight. First, we're going to talk a little bit about how the high school works and some of the differences between middle school and high school and kind of how we get ready for that transition. We'll talk a lot about course selection, which is upon us right now. And then Principal Sanchez and Ms. Butler are going to talk a little bit more about sports, clubs, some of the other elements of the high school that we want you to get excited about. And then afterwards, we are going to have a live Q&A. So with that said, feel free to type questions in throughout the program into the chat feature on WebEx. I know there's a chat and a Q&A feature, but then there's like two boxes we need to look at. So if you don't mind using the chat feature tonight, that would be awesome. Feel free to type in as I'm talking. That's totally fine. The other panelists will help answer. And if not, you can hold until the end and we'll be able to discuss live. Okay, so in my opinion, these are the really big differences between middle school and high school, and just the first things that we need to talk about and go over. And we'll go over each of these in detail tonight. The first thing to always note when you're starting high school is that now every single thing that you do in your classes and in high school, it counts as credit, right? So every class that you take counts as credit, and you need to earn a certain number of credits in order to graduate. We're going to talk about that and all the other requirements for graduation. I'm going to explain how we calculate something called GPA. I know a lot of our eighth graders seem to be familiar with what this is already, but we're going to talk a little bit more about the implications of it. And also just keeping in mind that while we have so many amazing classes for you to pick from at the high school, some of them do have something called a prerequisite, which means that you need to first take a different class. And that's something that's all part of like 4-year planning in high school and that your school counselor will help you with. But it's just something to keep in mind. If you end up figuring out that there's a class you're really hoping to take at some point in high school, you're going to want to check and make sure that you meet the prerequisite first. So even though there's like some of these other things to start thinking about and some different implications of everything you do in school every day, I also think it just means there's more fun, there's more friends to be had, there's more things to get involved with. There's a great spirit at Columbia High School, and I think that everyone will end up loving it. So we're so excited to welcome you. And these are some of the first things that we want to start thinking about and talking about. So this idea of credits. So every class bears a certain number of credits in high school. Our full year classes are worth 5 credits. The semester classes, so those are those half-year classes, are worth 2.5. And then our quarter-long classes, which are phys ed and health and driver ed, those are 1.25 credits. So obviously you see the breakdown here, and that's the credit value of each of our courses. In order to move on to the next grade, you need to have earned 30 credits at least from the previous grade. So you can see here that to eventually move on from 9th grade and to become a 10th grader, you had to have earned 30 credits and so on until you've eventually earned 120 credits, which is the requirement to graduate high school and earn a diploma. You'll notice with the course selection process that's happening right now, you are required to request 35 credits a year. And that's what we recommend that you enroll in each year. So that would be like a 1 through 8 schedule at the high school. You'll see a little note down here about that. There is the opportunity for you to actually request 40 credits a year, an extra class, let's say, an extra elective that you'd be able to pick. But one thing that's really important to note about that with the way our bell schedule is currently set up is that our 9th period at Columbia High School is something called our conference period. And that's when students are able to access their teachers for extra help. We also have tutoring and other things going on then, but that's the only time of day that they are able to access their teachers for that help. And if you end up requesting the 40 credits instead of the 35, that keeps you from being able to use that conference period and see your teachers. So that's a really important thing we want you to remember right now as you're thinking about the classes you want to request for your 9th grade year at Columbia. We are really recommending that 9th graders do the 35 credits and be able to use that conference period. And then you can see how it goes. And at a later year, if you want to take an extra elective, if you kind of got the groove and had all your study skills in place and felt really great about that, then maybe go for it another year. But we are really recommending that 9th graders consider the 35 credits so that they can utilize the 9th period conference period to seek out teachers for help. So these are the graduation requirements. You can find this in many places. It's on our website. It's obviously, you could just Google it, New Jersey graduation requirements. These are state graduation requirements. And it just details the amount of credits that you need to have earned in each area, in each discipline. And we're going to go through this in detail tonight and talk about what your options are for 9th grade in each of these areas to help you start accumulating those credits. Another thing to note is that there are testing pathways in order to graduate high school in the state of New Jersey. So right now, we only know what the requirements for testing are for our next few classes to graduate. So that could change for the class of 2026. So I don't have it written out here, but that is a link to the New Jersey State webpage where it explains at least the requirements for the next few years of graduates. And it pretty much means that you just have to score a certain number on what they now are calling the NJ-GPA, the little standardized test that they're giving to juniors. And if you don't score that number, there's other options in order to meet the pathway through either like an SAT or another test that we can give you. So it's nothing that you need to worry about right now, but it is something that we just want you to be aware of. That's part of the graduation requirements. It's not just about the credits. It's also about the testing pathway.
Yeah, just to interrupt, Ms. Balassone, it looks like, and we don't know yet for the class of 2026, as you mentioned, that perhaps a Algebra 1 or a Geometry NJ-SLA from this year could count. So it is important for students to take those tests seriously, even in 8th grade, because it might be a graduation. It might help them for their graduation pathway.
For sure. Please do take all those tests seriously that you're given in school, because as Principal Sanchez is saying, sometimes we do end up being able to go back to those, and that's what can help a student meet that pathway to graduate. So definitely do take those seriously. And just a quick note before we move on from credits at this time. How do you earn a credit in high school? There's 2 ways you earn the credit for a class. One, by passing it academically, so you need to earn a D- or better. But the other way is that you can't exceed the maximum allowable absences for the course. So like for a full year course, that's 18. You can be absent 18 times, but once you hit 19, then you lose credit for the course. So again, that's something we'll talk about a lot and remind the students about a lot over the years, but it's really important to know that you won't be able to earn credit for the course if you exceed the absences. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about GPA, grade point average. Students are assigned 2 GPAs in high school. One is their weighted GPA, and the other is their unweighted GPA. Both of these calculations show up on their transcript, the ultimate document that will be sent to colleges one day or other post-secondary programs. And the GPA is pretty much the numerical value of your letter grades. The difference between these 2 types of GPA is spelled out right here for you. The big differences are that the weighted GPA is really only including those weighted courses. So our academic core subjects and some of our honors electives. That goes into the weighted GPA. So like phys ed and health, and some of the other electives that aren't weighted, like drawing, those are not going into the weighted GPA. The other big difference is that if you choose honors instead of academic and get the same, say you get a B in honors instead of getting the B in academic, your GPA is going to be a little bit higher because you went for the honors. So the weighted GPA is also considering the level that you're in for the class and almost giving you extra credit for being in a more rigorous course. So this is spelled out in many ways all over the program of studies and on our website, but these are some of the big questions we get about the differences between weighted and unweighted. So just kind of spelling that out here. And this is the actual scale. If you were curious about the math and kind of what it all means, you can see that the unweighted GPA is calculated pretty simply because there's just one numerical value for every letter grade. But if you look over to the other columns to the right, you'll see that for the weighted GPA, it becomes more complicated because depending on the level course you're in, the numerical value of the letter grade changes. So like, for example, in an honors course, a B plus is a 4.0. And in an academic course, the B plus is a 3.67. So you can see that by getting the same grade in a higher level course, your GPA is getting bumped up a little bit. So we go over this with the students a lot, but I know it's also kind of like an abstract, overwhelming thing. So we just like to kind of present it often so that we can talk about it a lot. And so I see the question here about, do colleges look at weighted or unweighted GPA? Well, they do see both on the transcript. They're really focusing more on the weighted GPA. When they receive a student's transcript, they kind of pull it apart and recalculate a GPA to their own algorithm, but they're considering the types of things that we're considering in the weighted GPA, like the rigor of the curriculum and mostly those core subjects and any weighted electives. All right. So these are some little definitions of the differences between the levels at Columbia High School. This is straight out of our program of studies, which is on our website, and comes right from our department supervisors. So this is kind of how they're describing the differences at the high school. So honors classes are going to have additional depth and complexity, and they're going to move a little bit faster. That's definitely a big one that we hear from students, is that it seems to be moving faster, more work sometimes at night. And then we do have AP courses not available for ninth graders, but it's really important to start to learn now about our AP offerings so that you can kind of make that part of your 4-year plan. AP courses are really like college level courses that are taught at the high school, and they have a big end of year exam. And if your student scores, a good score on that end of year exam, it's possibly something that you can use as college credit wherever they go to college. That would be up to that college in order to decide if they're accepting it. So these are kind of the basic differences between the levels. There's no AP offerings for 9th grade, but there will be in 10th grade. So it's just something to start thinking about. For 9th grade, the big decision that you have to make with a lot of these classes, as you'll see in a minute when we get to each class, is, are you going to take academic or honors? That's kind of the big thing that you're going to have to decide for each class in 9th grade. And I know it's been hard because the past couple of years have been a little wonky for everybody. So I don't think necessarily looking at our grades from the past 2 years is always the best indicator for what we should be taking next year. We used to use that a lot. Like we used to look at the grades from 7th and 8th grade and be able to advise students on how many honors they should go for and things like that. But I just feel like that's not really an accurate evaluation at this time with everything that's been happening the past 2 years. So these are some other things to think about when you're considering taking, whether it's just one honors or all honors or a few. We do hope that all 9th graders will at least try one honors in the subject that they're most excited about or feel the most confident in. We really hope that that's the case. And of course, we encourage more and maybe take, all, if you're a student who's really been doing well, has their study skills down in place, has those routines in place, and has been doing well in school this year. Sorry, I'm also trying to look at the chat over here at the same time. Okay. Oh, thanks, Principal Sanchez, for answering the chat. Okay. The other thing to remember about honors is that this is kind of like the path to AP. It can be more challenging to jump from the academic course straight to the AP course the next year. That can be a little more of a jarring challenge. It's not that you can't do it, you absolutely can do it. But it's like a nice way to kind of start to push yourself towards being someone who takes an AP course. And we hope that all of you will eventually before leaving Columbia High School. So we say challenge yourselves. And at least for ninth grade, think about the class you're most excited about, the most interested in, and go for it at least in that course. So for ninth grade, these are pretty much the courses that you'll be needing to take. There's some that are required. You have no choice. That's just what you need to take. We definitely recommend trying to do your year of world language that's required for graduation freshman year, ultimately because you would want to be able to continue that for 3 or 4 years for college admissions purposes. And then, of course, there's electives that you're able to choose from. And we're going to go through all of this right now, department by department. So there's no questions here about what the options are for each area. So for ELA, English Language Arts, every freshman takes English 1. The question is, are you going to take academic or honors? That's what you'll need to decide when it comes time to putting in your course selection. Math can seem confusing just because, as you all know, 8th graders, you're all like on a little bit of a different sequence. So we may have some students that are going to be doing Algebra 1 in 9th grade, and we may have some who are doing Algebra 2. So it's all over the place a little bit with math, but what you need to take is the next course in the sequence. And here's the sequence written out right here. Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calc. That's the order in which math goes at Columbia High School. So you're just going to be taking the next course in the sequence. Big plug right now for our summer math advancement program. We don't have details about it yet, but it will be forthcoming this spring from our STEM supervisor, Mr. Misbahoudin. So keep your eyes open for that letter about summer math advancement that'll be coming out soon. What it is an opportunity to take next course in the sequence over the summer so that then in 9th grade, you can be further ahead in the trajectory. So if you were someone who is going to be taking Algebra 1 in 9th grade, you can actually take it over the summer and then take geometry in 9th grade. Why would we want to do this? Why do we care about moving ahead in the trajectory? Because the higher we can get on the math sequence, if we could get to calculus before we graduate high school, that does open some doors for some competitive colleges if that's something you end up being interested in. And most of our students are interested in competitive colleges. So that's why this is often our topic of conversation. We want to make sure that everyone knows what it is they need to do and set them up for in order to have those options when it comes time to apply. So the reason we want students to be moving along in the sequence is so that they can get to, definitely pre-calculus, if not even calculus, before graduating high school. Science is easy. Back to an easy one. All 9th graders take biology. So that's the same thing as ELA, either academic or honors. World history, same thing. That's what you have to take for social studies, academic or honors.
Can I just interrupt on the social studies? Because that's one we get a lot of questions on, right? So world history 2, there's academic or there's honors. Now, this is the one place where freshmen can take an AP test. And let me explain. World history is a course that covers, according to the New Jersey standards, European history from the Renaissance, right, to today-ish, right? Well, that's also the same scope of world history, AP world history. So we don't offer AP world history as a class, but what we do say to some students, and Ms. Ballison, correct me if I'm wrong, what we think maybe half of the students who are in honors may take the test?
Yeah.
So some students, right, half of the students in the honors class will sign up and say, hey, you know what? I took world history 2 honors. It's the same information that's in the AP world history curriculum. Let me take the test. And they do that. Again, we're not offering AP world history. However, because AP world history is one of the most accessible classes in the College Board. It's not unusual for freshmen to take it in very elite institutions. So that's something that we'll see here that students might take. So if you do hear, oh, my neighbor is a freshman and they're taking an AP class, well, they're really taking World History 2 honors, but will be taking the AP test. And again, just one of those things that we do in honors that Ms. Balasone mentioned, where it's like a pre-AP platform, right? It's teaching students the reading skills, the ability to discern bias in a text, and then to perhaps synthesize different points of view and write an essay. Well, that's what's in an AP test, right? And so we're already preparing them for that for, let's say, sophomore year for AP US 1. So it's not surprising that that happens. So I just wanted to put that out there, as people sometimes ask about AP's freshman year. We do not support students taking AP courses freshman year because, you know, it's a transition year from middle school to high school. But this, it's not an AP course, but it does cover the AP content. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Yes. And also with this, some people get confused about why it's called World History 2 in 9th grade. It's because it's an extension of the 8th grade social studies class where they start learning about world history. So almost think of that as World History 1 in 8th grade. That's why this is called World History 2. With our world languages, these are the options. And, you know, when you go on PowerSchool to put in your course selection, you know, it'll only allow you to select the second level of the language if you've already completed the first. So you can't really make a mistake in terms of selecting here. It'll kind of let you know what you're eligible for, and you're eligible to take the first year of any language. So you can change your mind. If you want to start something new that you weren't doing in middle school, that's totally fine. You can start a new language. All right, I'm sorry for the heavy text on this slide, but unfortunately, describing the physical education and health situation does require a lot of words. I'll try to keep it as simple as possible, but this is where we get like the bulk of the questions once 9th grade starts. So I'm just hoping to clear up some of that right now. So every year of high school, our students at Columbia have to take 5 credits of PE and health. So all year long, they're enrolled in either PE, phys ed, or health/driver ed, depending on the year. So this is kind of the breakdown of each grade and what you're taking in each grade. So you'll see no matter what, you're always taking 3 quarters, 3 marking periods of phys ed. And then the other quarter is whatever health or driver ed you're set up for that year. So it's health each year except 10th grade. That's when you take driver ed. So for the 9th graders, you guys will be taking 3 quarters of phys ed and then health 9. This is automatically loaded into your course request. For those of you who have already been on PowerSchool playing around with it, you've probably seen it. It's automatically there. You can't change it. So you don't have to worry about requesting anything in terms of phys ed and health. It's already set up for you. Then what's going to happen is when school starts next year on the first day of school, whatever period it is that you have phys ed in your schedule, you report to our auditorium. And all our phys ed teachers are going to be there explaining what activities they're teaching that period, whether it's basketball, volleyball, project adventure. And that day, the students are going to be able to decide which activity they want to do that quarter for phys ed. It's great because like you're there with your friends in the auditorium, so you can all pick together, which is nice. But that's kind of how phys ed works. We also have something called option 2. And I'm about to talk about that. But if you are a student who's approved for option 2 for the quarter, you would be going to a study hall instead of phys ed for that quarter, and that would be on your schedule ultimately when you get it. So speaking of option 2, what is this? Option 2 is a program that we have at the high school that allows students, if they're playing a competitive sport for a season, to essentially opt out of phys ed for that quarter. Students can do it for up to 2 quarters per year, but it can't be for the same sport. So like if you're playing basketball in the winter, you can't opt out for quarter 2 and 3. You would just have to pick one. But, you know, if you're playing basketball in the winter and then field hockey in the spring, then you can do one for each sport, if that makes sense at all, up to 2 quarters. We do have an application process for option 2. It doesn't happen automatically. It is something that you have to apply for if you're going to be a competitive athlete and you want to opt out of phys ed for a quarter. All the information is online on the CHS Athletics website, but I just also pasted it here so we could talk about it, but you can refer back to the website at any time. Right now, the link on there for the application is for this year for our students right now at Columbia. In June, we'll be posting the application for next year, for option 2 for next year. It's open all year long. At any time, you can submit an application for option 2 for a quarter. We do ask you to do it as soon as possible. So if you know you're going to be going out for a certain sport next year, we'll ask you to fill out that application in June. That would be amazing. But you can also wait and fill it out throughout the year once you're totally sure about what sport you're going out for or making the team or whatever it is. And the deadlines are right here. They're in the program of studies. They're on the website. But if you are going to be a spring athlete wanting to opt out for quarter 4 when you're in season, you can see right here, for example, the deadline would be April 1st of next year for submitting the application. And here's the other deadlines for the other quarters. So one thing to remember is that you cannot opt out of health or driver ed. You can only opt out of a quarter of phys ed. So down here at the bottom of the slide, you'll see for each grade what quarter their health or driver ed is scheduled for. So 9th graders, you're going to be scheduled for Health 9 quarter 4. So that means if you're a spring athlete, you won't be able to opt out in 9th grade. You will be able to opt out the other years though, because as you can see, the other years, it's other quarters. So sorry, I know that was a lot, and like hearing it all can be like, it just goes right over your head. So we'll have the slides up on the website, and this is also right on the CHS Athletics website if you wanted to check it at any time. And definitely we'll take questions about this too if you want to type those in. So those are
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry to jumping in, regarding option 2. It's very important that health is there, right? So basically what we're saying is that usually the maximum that a student could probably take, for at least for a freshman, will be 2 seasons. Spring season, the student is not available to take option 2. However, that's great because again, we're talking about, freshman year as a transition. So if your child does play a sport in the fall, well, that counts, right? They will definitely be able to option for option 2 in the fall, and then they can have a choice whether they want, if they do play a winter sport, for the 2nd or 3rd marking period. And I'm sorry, Ms. Ballison, if you mentioned this, it has to be a competitive sport. So even if it's something outside of Columbia High School, as long as, we've had students who questions like, oh, I go to the gym every day. That doesn't count. Now, does your child go and competitive power lift? Well, then yes, right? So that's kind of where we draw the line or the distinction, and that's according to state guidelines or at least state suggestions. It used to be that health for freshmen could be in the 1st quarter, 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter, or 4th quarter. What we've done this year is to say, no, all freshmen have health in the 4th quarter. This guarantees that a student will only lose that opportunity for option 2 once each year. So we try to balance that that way. So I'm sorry, Ms. Basso.
right. It's a lot. So you can just kind of like take this in and refer back to it at any time. And part of the application, if you're not a CHS athlete, like Principal Sanchez is mentioning, if you're like a competitive power lifter, on the application, you are required to upload a letter from your coach on letterhead from whatever the organization is, detailing the competition element of it, how many hours per week, and everything like that. So that's what you would be required to do for the application if you're not a CHS athlete. So that takes care of like ELA, math, science, social studies, world language, and phys ed health are big areas that you are required to take things in. But then if you're requesting 35 credits, there's almost an additional class or 2 that you can pick. 1 class if it's going to be a full year course that you pick, or 2 half-year courses. So there's essentially like 1 more period left to choose electives. We have a lot of electives that are full year worth 5 credits. You would only pick 1 of those. And we have a lot of electives that are half year, 2.5 credits. You could pick 2 of those then. But it's essentially going to fill the 1 period of the year. Also, you are required as part of this process to pick a second choice or alternate elective so that if we are unable to get your first choice into your schedule, we can try for your second choice. So you'll notice that that's part of the process, is that you're required to pick first 5 credits of a first choice, whether it's a full year or 2 half years, and then 5 credits of a second choice, whether it's a full year or 2 half years. So all of our electives are detailed in our program of studies with course descriptions and other information. But here's just a quick little snapshot of the electives available in our visual and performing arts area. That's one of the graduation requirements. You would ultimately need to earn 5 credits of visual and performing arts in order to graduate. It does not have to be 9th grade. You can do the senior year. So there's really no rule about what area you need to pick from in terms of your electives in 9th grade. I recommend you just pick what sounds most fun to you, that you'll look forward to every day when you wake up and you have to come to school. Like, oh, I'm excited for ceramics. So just pick whatever appeals to you most for 9th grade. Let's get you started, have you have a great year, and then you can worry about fulfilling those elective requirements for graduation in the future years. The other big area of elective requirement is 21st century life and career. So here's a little snapshot of the options there. Again, full descriptions in the program of studies. Ultimately, you'll need 5 credits from this list as well in order to graduate. And you will notice that there's only some that are available to the 9th grade. So if there's something else on this list that's only available for upperclassmen, maybe you'll wait to fulfill this one and you'll do something different in 9th grade. The third area of elective that's required to graduate is financial literacy. There's 2 options at the school in order to fulfill this: personal finance or our econ class, which is not available to 9th graders. You can do this any year, of course. It's just a half-year class. So for the electives that you're picking from, there's the 3 areas: visual and performing arts, 21st century life and career, and financial literacy. It doesn't matter which area you pick from for 9th grade. You just want to look through all of the options. You want to read all the course descriptions and then pick what sounds best to you. So I've mentioned the program of studies many times. There'll be a link here when I post the slides on the website, but it's also just on our website and multiple other places. It's really, really important that you open up this document and read it from top to bottom. It's pretty long, but it's worth the read because the first section of the program of studies is all just about like how the high school works, like the GPA scales in there, all the stuff about credits is in there, option 2, like all the information about how the high school works is in there. All of our policies for schedule changes throughout the year, when you're able to change your mind and drop a class or add a class or change a level, that's all detailed in the first part of the program of studies. The second part of the document is all of the classes that we offer with full course descriptions for each one. So it's a long document, but full of great information that you should definitely familiarize yourself with. And it's all part of this like 4-year planning that we'll be talking a lot about once you start at the high school. We're never just talking about right now, we're always talking about how is this going to fit into the plan for the 4 years. I want to point out just like a few of the things in the program of studies that you should have in mind and definitely read more into in the document. The first, of course, is this whole like course selection timeline and process, which we're talking about tonight. But as I mentioned, there's really important information in there about what you are and aren't allowed to drop and add next year in terms of your schedule and when you can do that, when you can't do that. So it's good to just know that right now. Math advancement, which I spoke about before, being able to move ahead on the math trajectory. And if you can't do it this summer, that's okay. You can actually do it next summer, right? So if you end up taking Algebra 1 next year, you can take geometry next summer as part of math advancement and then do Algebra 2 in 10th grade. So just taking advantage of that at some point in the summer to move at some point in your high school career to move ahead on the math trajectory. Thinking about those prerequisites, that's detailed in the program of studies. So you can look through, and if you feel like, oh, hey, I really want to take an AP computer science class one day, you'll notice in the program of studies that it says a prerequisite to that is roadmap to computing, one of our other electives. So you would want to plan to take that at some point earlier in your high school career so that you can ultimately take AP computer science later. VOTEC, we have a really cool sending relationship with Union County Vocational Technical Schools. You can apply to spend half your day at Columbia and half your day at Union County VOTEC in order to learn a trade. So they have really cool programs there. They have electric and carpentry, they have culinary, they have cosmetology. The information about it is in the program of studies, so you can look there. It'll link you right to the VOTEC website where there's details about all the programs. It's really great for a student who maybe has interests outside of the high school. And it's a really great way to kind of stay engaged and also leave high school knowing a trade.
So Ms. Ballastone,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's been a couple questions regarding the counselors. So when our high school counselors go and visit the middle school, are they working one-on-one with the students, or do the students work
Yes.
with the parents? How does that work?
I'm about to get there. I'm sorry.
No,
Good.
great to know, because this is our first year in person. So I'm myself curious. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really excited to talk about that part. But yes, we are coming in person, which is so fun after the past 2 years not being able to do that. And it's one-on-one meetings with the student. We'll talk about that more in a second. Option 2, we already spoke about. I just want to point out a money skill from the program of studies. It's something you want to take a look at. It's an alternate way to meet the financial literacy requirement for graduation. It's a free online course. We partner with an organization to be able to offer this to our students. So it's just something to take a look at as part of the 4-year planning. And of course, make sure you see all the AP offerings that we have and start to think about which ones you might be interested in one day to make sure you're kind of leading up to that. We also now have a great dual enrollment program. Right now it's with Seton Hall University, but we might be adding other universities to the mix, where we have our Columbia High School teachers teaching at the high school a course that also counts for credit through Seton Hall. So those classes are also asterisked and noted in the program of studies, and it's a great opportunity to show rigor on the transcript and also maybe get some college credits under your belt, in addition to our AP offerings. Okay, so now that we talked about how this is all going to work and what the options are, we're going to talk about the actual technicality of entering the course requests into the system, into PowerSchool. So we hope that you will be able to do this with your children prior to the week of March 14th, because that week, the high school counselors will be coming down to the middle schools on Tuesday the 15th. They're coming to MMS, and on Thursday the 17th, they're coming to SOMS. And they are going to be going into a classroom with probably 20 of your children sitting in there. And they are going to do like a brief presentation, kind of like what we're talking about tonight, but just a little bit, shorter and simpler. And then they're going to be pulling students one at a time for a brief conference to check the course request that they entered and to review it together. And of course, if your student doesn't have anything entered that day, that's okay. But the high school counselor will be entering it with them right then and there. We won't be leaving the middle schools that day until the course requests are entered. So that's why we're having this night, and that's why we're sending out all the information, because we really hope that you'll start the conversation with your students now, and you will actually have entered the course request into PowerSchool prior to this week, so that it's more of a conversation review with the high school counselor and not the high school counselor, doing it right then and there without the parent present. Keep in mind that you can change the course request in PowerSchool through April 1st. So it's totally okay. If you don't have this conversation with your family and with your student, it's all right. The high school counselor will have it with you that day. They'll enter the course request with you. And then as a family, you'll still have a couple of weeks to discuss and make any changes through to April 1st. Were there other questions about this, Principal Sanchez? We'll look through and make sure we get to all the questions after.
Yeah, sorry, there's been a lot. When will students who will be new to the district be able to meet with the counselor? There was a question about whether you can see, and oh yeah, sorry, Ms. Butler already answered a couple of the questions. So thank you, Ms. Butler, that you can see the outline of each course offered at CHS with our new program. I believe it's called Atlas, right? And it's on the website. So you can see all of the guides. So thank you, Ms. Butler, for answering that.
And as far as the new students, Definitely, if you're going to be a new student in the district, reach out so we can set up a time to meet with you over the summer as well. But start reaching out to me as the grade level vice principal so I can start to get you on my calendar. I know the summer seems so far away, but before we know it, it'll be here. So please reach out.
Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time here showing you every slide of how to enter course requests. I'm just going to breeze through it really quick. These slides will be posted on the website, but just wanted you to see a visual real quick of what we're expecting everyone to do. Is just to log in through PowerSchool. You can use the parent portal, that's fine, either one. And then you'll notice that on the left sidebar, there's an option called class registration. That's what you're clicking on to get into this portal of course registration. Once you're in here, each area of study will have its own category. You'll be clicking on the little pencil off to the side. I know it's hard to see it here, but there's a little pencil that's almost like an edit button for each area of study. That's what you're clicking on in order for the options to pop up. And then you're looking through the options. Pay attention because a lot of the areas of study have 2 pages of options. Sometimes students are always saying, where's that class? Where's that class? But it's on the second page. So you just have to make sure you're browsing through all of the options. You're going to select the course you want, just check it off, click OK. And then you'll notice that next to your little pencil button, it turned into a green check mark. That means you did what you were supposed to for that area of study. You'll notice, as I spoke about, that we are requiring you to also pick those second choice alternate electives. You'll notice that there's like a separate section for that. And then as you go and try to submit these, you don't have to worry about making an error because if you did something horribly wrong, it's going to tell you, it's going to stop you, and it's going to tell you exactly what you did wrong. You missed a section, things like that. And then ultimately you're going to press submit and the selections will be here for you to view. And from here on out, anytime you want to look at what you requested, you're just going to click on class registration and it'll bring you to this page showing you what you already requested. And of course, you can edit these until April 1st. Then I'm going to be reminding everyone as we near that April date that we're also asking parents to go onto PowerSchool under forms and to fill out a student course verification form. It's letting us know that the parent is aware of what requests were made and essentially approves of them. So we're just asking you to please do that form afterwards, and I'll be sending out lots of reminders about that. So you don't have to worry too much about it right now. So all of that said, I know it's like a lot, but I just want to remind everyone about all the amazing supports that we have at the high school real quick before I turn this over to Principal Sanchez and Ms. Butler. So this is the team for the class of 2026. We're very excited, all of us, to welcome you guys to the high school. So you've met the first 3 of us on this list. You also are going to have a dedicated student assistance counselor. His name is Mr. Lupus, and he's here to help students with things that are really outside of the academics. So while students can, of course, seek him out on their own, he also may be someone that the school counselor refers a student to if they feel that there's other things going on with the student that they require a little more support outside of the academic area. We also have a great social worker at the high school, Miss Easton, and she runs like this amazing social work intern program. So we have tons of social work interns. So there's lots of support here, not only academically, but social, emotional as well.
And of course, if a student has an IEP, they also have a case manager, which, and then the student may also have a social worker tied there. Ms. Ballasone, when a student with an IEP does have their schedule, in that process, is the high school case manager there with the counselor, or is the middle school case manager there?
In 8th grade?
Yes.
So
In high school, obviously, it's with the case manager. It's the high school case manager. But
yeah,
I'm wondering,
it's the middle school.
Okay.
Case manager. And just so you know, this is detailed in a lot of the information that was sent out. Hopefully you saw it, but if you do have an IEP or if you're an ELL student and kind of have like a special program that's outside the traditional program of studies, you don't have to worry too much about like the course request being wrong, because what we do is after all the course requests are captured, we go through with a fine-tooth comb and we make sure that every single person's requests match their people study, either through the child study team or through the ELL program. We'll go in and change anything based on the student's IEP, what the case manager says. So we have several levels of review there in order to fix anything. So if you have a special program at the high school, you will at the high school, whether it's, English language learner, special ed, anything like that, we'll definitely make sure that all of your requests are fixed and edited and everyone reviewed them multiple times prior to building the master schedule.
And an important question just came up. I said, do 504s carry over from middle school? This is really important to listen to. So there are huge transitions in a student's life. The first one in school goes from 5th grade to 6th grade, and then from 8th grade to 9th grade. So there will be some sort of transition meeting taking place as your child exits middle school, because as they transition, you wouldn't be keeping usually the same accommodations in place, because our job as the administrators and teachers in the building and the counselors is to try to build your capacity as a student as you're heading towards college. So while there may be an accommodation that your kid had in kindergarten, that accommodation in a 504 would not be appropriate when they're at 9th grade. So there'll be a transition meeting with the assistant principal that is in charge at the middle school level, just to see what accommodations should be going forward. And then obviously you have your annual reviews, which are totally different. And you're probably wondering who oversees the 504s. I am the 504 coordinator for the 9th grade, but the 504 won't look exactly that it does at the 8th grade level, because your student shouldn't be taking every single accommodation from kindergarten all the way to they graduate, because we wouldn't be doing our job to help build the capacity in your child's learning when they go off to college. Do you want to add anything, Mr. Sanchez? I think that I kind of touched on that.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you. So lots of questions about who the school counselor will be for our current 8th graders, and you will find that out over the summer when you get your schedule. Hopefully in early July, your counselor's name will be on your schedule, and that's when you'll find out who your counselor is. For now, you all have really amazing counselors at the middle school. Like, I just love them. Hopefully they're on tonight. I don't know. Love you guys, but they are so amazingly supportive and like wonderful. So like they're here for you still for the rest of the year, and they know a lot about this process, and they can help you. And if for some reason they can't, they'll call me. So still use your middle school counselor through the end of the year, please. And then you'll find out who your high school counselor is over the summer, and we'll be really excited to meet you all in September. So you guys know what a school counselor is, but this is just your number one support at the high school is your school counselor, because they're the person you can go to for anything. Like if you have no idea what to do, you're having some kind of issue, you don't know who to go to, you just go to your school counselor and they'll set you up with another person if they can't help you, and they'll make sure that you get connected to the right answer. So just keep in mind that's like your biggest support system at the high school. We also detail all the supports we have on our counseling website, so I recommend going on there and checking it out. It's updated regularly, and there's like links to be able to request support right on there. There's like Google Forms if you need a tutor, if you need a social work intern, like whatever it is, it's on our website. This is some of what we offer. It's like a handful of the academic and social emotional resources at the high school. It says number 1, your school counselor in the Annex. We do have something called the Counseling Annex. Right now it's housed in our library at the high school. And you can go up there at any time to like sign up for a tutor, or sign up for a workshop, anything like that. Get a social work intern set up for you. You don't have to go up there in person. You could also just do the Google form on the website, but it is almost like a one-stop shop to get extra help outside of your school counselor and how they can help you. There's a lot of great programming that comes through there. We have like an executive functioning workshop once a week. We have like a student athlete support group going. We have a new student support group for anyone new who moves in the middle of the year, things like that. So we have a lot of cool stuff going on up there. We do have free tutoring at the high school through the Achieve Foundation. Thank you so much to them for everything they do. We also have something called the Slam Lab, which is actual CHS teachers that are stationed in an area of the library all throughout the day and are available to help any student. I mentioned Earlier in the presentation, we have our conference period, which is that last period of the day when teachers are available for you to go get help from them. Teachable Tuesdays is one of our programs at the Annex where we have like a little different workshop happening every Tuesday. We run groups, like I mentioned. We have not only social work interns, we also have school counseling interns up there. So we have like a ton of extra help for anyone who needs like really regular check-ins and things like that. Our student assistance counselor, again, Mr. Lupus, for anything that's outside the academics. And we have the Loft, who are located in the high school, down by our weight room and our cafeteria, and they do a lot of cool stuff as well. They do have clinicians on staff for any student who may be appropriate to be referred down there for any clinical assistance. But they also have like a homework club after school, and it's like an alternate place you can go during lunch, and they do field trips and like other more recreational things. I know MMS has the hub, so it's like that next version of that at the high school. So those are just some of the resources that we have that you can kind of feel confident knowing that you can get connected with once you start next year.
Miss
Oh,
Balsone.
I don't know what happened to this slide. I had it looking so nice with your pictures. I'm so sorry.
Oh, come on.
I have
It's
other
just,
slides too. Oh, there it is. It wasn't
oh,
phasing.
you're very, for my slides, you had very high-tech transitions.
I know.
Very, very quickly, there've been a couple questions about, how many honors classes do I take and how many academic classes? And I always hate, uh, I know my daughters hate me always using them as an example, right? Because everybody's different. But I have I have three daughters, but two in high school right now, sophomores and freshmen. And I faced the same situation, right? Maybe one excelled more than the other in middle school, and what do they do at high school? At my daughter's school, we don't have a conference period, right? And so that's something to think about for strategy, in a way, right? Like if you believe your child is excelling and can take all honors, well, that's great. Then perhaps leave the conference period open, right? So they can definitely um, uh, get extra help. My daughter excels in the humanities, not so much in the math or science. So she took one of those two as honors, math or science. So there's different things that one can do when thinking about the classes. I do think freshman year is a really important year. It's one of the most important years in high school because you're transitioning from that eighth grade and you want to set a very positive year, right, for yourself as a young student. So, Ms. Balson, you had over a decade of counseling experience. What do you think, Ms. Butler, to answer that question?
So again, like it used to be much easier to advise on this, but I do feel like the past 2 years have been something else. So I think that obviously if over the past 2 years your student has been someone who's been able to like be completely self-disciplined, always hands in their homework, like doesn't have issues with handing in things late and keeping up in terms of that, seems to be able to have good study skills and does well in school, like is getting B's or better, then go for the honors, right? That seems to be a student who really has learned like all of those little tricks of the trade already and has them down pat, go for the honors, right? But if your student has struggled to hand in assignments, to keep up with reading, and especially if it's like seems to be impacting the mental health at all, then take it easy, maybe pick one to try, right? So I think you have to kind of think about what your academic experience has been, not only in terms of like the letter grades, but also like emotionally, like how has your student handled this? Have they also been able to have time to like hang out with friends and play a sport and like do other things, have a part-time job? Like if it's been a giant struggle, then don't totally go for it ninth grade, like maybe just dip your toe in a little bit ninth grade and then work to build that up.
I also think you need to have conversation with your child as well. My daughter was chosen, I live in a different district. She was chosen to be in 2 honors level courses, and this is at the middle school level. And while they thought I was crazy, we had a conversation with my daughter, and she didn't feel comfortable going into honors math because it wasn't something that she felt that she could do as much independently without a tutor on the side. And she said, I want to feel comfortable first. So she chose just to go on the honors level English. So I think that having a conversation with your child as well when you make that decision, and not just saying like, no, you're just going to be in all honors. That's it. So I think it's really important as they are beginning this journey at the high school level that they're a part of the process when they make decisions, because when they get to college, they're going to be making their decisions on what classes that they register for. So I just think that they need to be a part of the conversation, and everything that Mr. Sanchez and Miss Ballasone said, like, you definitely, like, I knew that my daughter was able to score really well on that test because I had a tutor working with her every single week to fill in some gaps that I saw. So I had to actually listen to her when she was like, Mama, I just don't feel comfortable yet, maybe in 7th grade.
Definitely.
And thank you, Ms. Butler. And I do believe, one of the great things about freshman year to help is to really be part, and it might sound counterintuitive, but to join clubs, right? To join sports, to be part of the community here at Columbia High School. And let me just say, one of the things that are just so awesome and what makes Columbia so special is, look at the program of studies, parents, right? It reads, maybe not freshman year, but it does read like a college course booklet, especially sophomore, junior, and senior year, the different and myriad of courses that we offer. And the same thing goes with activities. I was sneaking in some pizza just because I ran to see the Jubilee concert of the orchestra that was happening at the Woodland at 7 p.m. And then stage crew was meeting, building our set for Newsies tomorrow night. I can't wait to go see the fencing team, which the girls fencing team is in the state finals tomorrow night. There's just so many activities for our students and clubs like chess. If you can go back to that the slide before, Ms. Ballasone, we have outside groups, girls helping girls, period. I think one of the things that students here would really like to know, our 8th graders, how much we value student input. There was a club like that that got us to think more. We already offered menstrual products, for free in the building, but because of student voice and we listened, now we have, thanks to Mr. Woolard, one of our assistant principals, we were able to purchase dispensers now in each of the bathrooms in the A wing. So these are things that we really value. These clubs and student activism has a rich tradition here at Columbia. So, I mean, you could just see all of the different clubs. It's on our website. And then there's new clubs every year because students do find passions. And of course, as we all know, Ultimate Frisbee was invented here in Maplewood, right here. So there's a sport that was invented, and also an activity that many of our students partake. So I'm not sure how many other slides we have. We have great organizations. Step dancing, I know, has grown tremendously thanks to a feeder program at MMS. Just environmental clubs, as I mentioned, some of the activism. Fencing is right down there. So lots of different sports and different activities.
Right. And these are all pictures from the club fair. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we had a club fair this year. We really tried to balance, and I think our seniors especially, but all of our students deserved a somewhat normal year this year. So we tried to have as many of the activities that we would always have. And our rising freshmen will have a club fair. That club fair is usually inside the school, and students are able to kind of meet other clubs. Well, this year we did it outside on Ritzer, and I think it's going to be a fine tradition to continue. Actually, it was a beautiful day. We will definitely have, in addition to the June visit from the middle schools, we'll have a special freshman orientation day over the summer in late August, and this will allow freshmen to come in, get some pizza, get a tour of the building with their schedule, which is nice. And then also meet upperclassmen to talk about all of the great clubs that we have. I was going to mention, someone asked about sports and tryouts. I know this might be new for those parents and students who are the first, sibling to come to the high school. Sports officially began for high school sports for football and tennis the first week of August. So it's like August 8th or 9th usually for football and tennis. The rest of the sports would start about August 10th, 12th, 14th in that area. So as you're planning vacations, I just want to mention that because that is important.
Thank you so much. So just the quick reminders here as we wrap up. You can edit and change your course requests online through PowerSchool through April 1st. Take a look at that program of studies to see when schedule changes are allowed to happen. It's all detailed in there. Consider signing up for Math Advancement when the letter comes out in the next few weeks from Mr. Misbahoudin. And definitely, when in doubt, challenge yourself. If you're like, oh, maybe I'll do the honors, maybe I won't, go for it. Let's just try it. Go for it. And of course, go Cougars. So we can't wait to have you all be part of the family in September. And now we will look back at this chat box and see if there's any questions that we still needed to address. Feel free to type questions in right now. We're still here for a little bit. Happy to answer all of your questions.
One of the questions, Ms. Balasone, is about being able to change a class if they end up in a class.
Yeah, so the whole like grid with all the details about when you can and can't drop things is in the program of studies. So definitely look that up. But basically, we do have in the very beginning, well, let me back up. When you get your schedule in July, there's an opportunity over the summer at that point to change your mind. That's your first chance to say, oh, never mind. And ideally, you would do it over the summer before the school year starts, so it's less disruptive to you. But you can also start the school year, and we have a 2-week add drop period, the first 2 weeks of school, where you can change your mind about the level you picked. You can try to pick a different elective. For the first 2 weeks, it's pretty simple. It's just a basic add drop where you can pretty much do what you need to with your schedule. Of course, there's no guarantee that if you want to change to a different elective, there will be a seat available in that elective, but you can certainly request it and try it. And then there's other times throughout the year, usually like at that progress report mark and at the report card mark. So like mid-quarter and at the end of each quarter, there's other opportunities to make certain changes to your schedule. So that's all detailed in the program of studies, but we do have the big 2-week add drop in the beginning of the year. Okay, looks like you guys got most of these questions answered in this chat.
I really do wish there was spell check. I just typing very quickly in this little box. I can't go through it, but there's a question about, do students have to take chemistry or physics? We did add new science classes for juniors this year where they were only allowed for seniors. So again, that's depending. I mean, Ms. Balson, you're the counseling guru here,
Yes.
right? Depends on the college you're thinking, or what do you think?
Yeah, so we're still doing the biology, physics, and chemistry trajectory. If absolutely necessary, there is another option for the third year of science where you can take like anatomy or one of our other classes, but we're still recommending the biology, physics, and chemistry, especially if we're talking about applying to four-year college. That's what the recommendation still is.
And we do have JV and varsity teams for all of our sports, and freshmen would depend on how many freshmen come out. But yes, we've had freshman tennis this year. I'm not sure if that's for boys or girls, but that's what we've had. So we're good there. We're very fortunate that we're able to use the facilities from both communities for that.
Okay. Can we go from academic? Okay, so a question here about, can you go from academic one year in a subject to then AP the next year in the same subject? You technically can, no one's stopping you. Sometimes that can be like a big change, but no one is stopping you. You can absolutely request AP at any time, even if you were in academic the previous year.
And Coco had one of my favorite questions about what we're building here at Columbia High School. We will be resurfacing the turf at Underhill this summer, right? That's step one, phase one. Then, not this spring, obviously, but next spring, we will begin to renovate the media center. The library will be completely gutted and redone, so it'll be a brand new media center. So your child will, you will be able to enjoy it for 3 years of your career here. The pool will be renovated as well. Looks like we're going to have an incredibly beautiful commons area for our students in that area. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to add 7 new classrooms. 2 of them will be dedicated for our special education life skills classes. And then the other 5 will be dedicated to academic, honors, inclusion, AP classes. Then we will also, and that's a way to really revitalize, I think, our life skill program. And the final thing we will be doing is renovating over 10 science labs, making them up to date. The B wing and the D wing were built in the 1970s, 1971. So it's due. And we're so fortunate that the community has supported this referendum. Of course, that affects all of our schools, but definitely the high school. We're so lucky to have some real changes happening in the next 2 years. And then after that, Ritzer Field will be redone. Ritzer is the field behind the high school.
All right, so we have some sports questions here.
Yeah, one of them says, if you have no experience, can you still try out for a sport? Absolutely, 100%. There are some of our sports, for instance, like field hockey. We don't have a lot of feeder programs. So if you've never played field hockey, most of the freshman team hasn't played field hockey unless they've done it on their own on the outside. We're starting to build the feeder sports. But absolutely, even if you haven't been in a feeder program and all your friends haven't, it's never too late to play sports, and it's a great thing to get involved. So yes, please do get involved if you're interested in trying out for sports.
It's a great way to meet friends, collaborate, the camaraderie of being together with other students. Fencing, like I just mentioned before, we're in the state finals, but we have fencers that have just picked up the saber, this year, 2 months ago, and are learning and having fun. And I think that's really what it's about, right? It's the bus rides to and forth from the track or cross country races are just as exciting as the races themselves. So I think it's a great opportunity to experience high school life. So I would definitely recommend that.
Okay, and do you mind just repeating again when the kids will be told they can sign up for the sports?
So, I'm sorry, tennis and football are the first week of August, right? So now that doesn't mean, for example, that there might be like captain practices in July, or some kids might run together, but those are not official practices. The official practices by the NJSIAA are very strict and cannot begin prior to the first week of August for football and tennis. And then the second week of August is when all other teams start. And then if it's for winter, obviously you'll be part of the community and you'll learn this. But I believe winter hockey and swimming are the first sports that start like 2 weeks before everyone else. And then the rest of the teams would play. And then spring, everybody, I think, starts at the same time.
Okay, so if people want to play a fall sport, will they get like a reminder about this in August, or they just have to come to the high school?
Oh, I'm sorry. In June, we will start to pepper all of our parents, and probably at this point, parents, I apologize, but I've been, just excited about what it's like to be here at Columbia in full speed. So we've been sending out our newsletters to the 8th grade parents all year, so you kind of see what's happening. We will be sending out from our coaches to all 8th grade parents information on a specific sports night. So something like this, with all of the coaches' emails and their practices and what they are doing. So this way you'll be able to contact them before the end of the year.
Thank you.
There was also a question about a drama class. We have the play that's each year at school, but we do have a drama class called Literature and Performance. But that's not offered until you become an upperclassman. So you don't have to worry about that for a freshman English class, but it is one of our electives. But you can also, there's like little tiny plays that we do, but then there's like the big play that you heard Mr. Sanchez talking about, the musical that's coming up in 2 weeks. So that's another way to get in your acting and singing and dancing and everything.
And the Parnassian Society is our oldest club that
Yes.
was, I believe, formed in 1885. I believe it's our oldest club, older than the building. And they do a drama performance every fall, I think in November.
There's a question here about option 2, that if you are opting out for a competitive sport, can you take a different class during the day instead of phys ed? You do have to take a study hall. You can't select a different course. Hopefully during the study hall, you would be doing homework and stuff since you're kind of busy after school doing your sport. But regardless, we don't have any other classes that are only quarter long. So you would be taking a study hall during the opt-out quarter. Okay, so questions about leaving during, sorry, yes, there's an orchestra class, yes, and all of our ensemble courses are detailed in the program of studies too, so you can read about all of them. Do you mind talking a little bit about freshmen leaving for lunch, Ms. Butler or Mr. Sanchez?
Sure. Am I on? I can't see right now.
You're on.
Yes. So this year we were not going to have freshmen to have open lunch, but due to COVID, we thought it made most sense to continue with our open campus approach to allow students to go out, so not to overcrowd the cafeteria. However, moving forward, we will have our freshmen in-house. We think it's best to have our freshmen in the cafeteria with us. Students can still be outside, want to eat outside. We have more tables in the back by Ritzer, but students will not be able next year with the way COVID is going to have outside lunch. So that will be a new policy, something we were going to do anyway this year. Was I able to answer that question for you?
Yes, thank you.
I just want to say, someone mentioned, what it looks like if we do renovate the pool, and what we're looking to do there is a commons area for our students. Again, one of these things, this idea of building privileges for our students, and you can see the exciting type of architecture that we're going to be looking at for our students in that area. So students will be able to sit here, do classes on their study hall period, meet with friends. You could see right over here, there's all glass rooms. And I think probably one of the most exciting things, Ms. Ballastone would agree, is that as you can see on the side, there's plenty of offices for our social worker interns, our attendance officers. We'll have a vice principal there, and we'll definitely have our student assistance counselors. So this will be a really great area for students to also meet those who are there to support them. So a lot of great things that are going to be happening at Columbia High School over the next 3 to 4 years that you'll be with us. So we're excited. And I don't know how to unshare. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Just leave it up. Right. So just to clarify, there's no new pool being built. No.
Right. That's why I put this up. Right. Was to show that.
And yes, one person had the question. Yes, we are reiterating freshmen will not be allowed off campus during lunch.
Yes. Sorry. Here we are.
Okay, any last questions? Definitely feel free to type in. We did record this event, so this will be posted on the district YouTube page, hopefully by the end of the week. And I'll post the video and the slides on the counseling website as well. All right, question about Underhill, is it staying public?
Yes, so
Yeah.
Underhill is right now, because we have, I believe, Clinton is the school right there. Many of their teachers are parking in that lot. Students are using it because of, I think, the construction, are using part of our field, and we were just finishing up some further renovations. However, moving forward within the next, I believe it's even the next few weeks, I think it's before next month, it will be open to the public again for people who live in the neighborhood and want to run and exercise. We just said, we want to remind people that the first right, if you will, of Underhill is for our students. So if our students are, let's say our track students or our lacrosse or girls lacrosse team is out there on the turf, we don't want parents or younger students running around the track as our high school lacrosse team is practicing. Those balls hurt at that high speed. So, but yes, it will be open again to the public within a month.
Great.
One, I don't know if you just answered this, but it says if you're approved for option 2, you're required to be in a study hall. Yes, that is the case. A study hall is put in your schedule for option 2.
Absolutely.
And the study hall has to be attended, or that option
bring
2
it back to PE.
will be removed and you will be put back into PE.
And you get to hang out in such a beautiful place that has historic tile ceilings. Can't go wrong.
All right. So if you have any further questions, you can definitely reach out to any of the three of us at any time. I'll throw my email address. I'll throw all of our email addresses in here right now.
And just want to say how fortunate our 8th grade students are right now to have Miss Butler as their 9th grade vice principal. Miss Butler spent many years teaching at SOMS, and so she has that experience of both middle school and high school and the things needed to transition well. And so you're in great hands. And Ms. Ballasone is our counseling director and has been doing so now for a few years. And after spending 10 years as a counselor, and really the counseling department is at its best that it's been in decades. So we thank Ms. Ballasone as well. And if you have any questions about the Columbia High School experience, please reach out to us. We are so proud of what we do here, and that's because we have a great faculty and culture here. So we look forward to you joining the Columbia High School family.
And don't worry, if you have already emailed me. No, Mr. Sanchez did not remove me from the senior class this year. I'm still finishing up with the seniors. So I know some of you have siblings that are seniors and freshmen. No, I'm going to be carrying your seniors till they graduate. But then I move down to freshmen and then follow them until they graduate. So don't worry, I will be with your seniors until they walk across the stage and receive their diploma. I'm just kind of dipping my feet into the freshman land right now as you're getting ready to start. So don't worry about that. I know you already emailed me thinking I was leaving seniors.
No, you're the class of 2022 and 2026. You have to share 2 duties.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.